Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My husband begged me to drive him to the hospital for his former girlfriend, my stepsister. I still love her, he said. I took him. He ran to her without looking back. That night, I left. He found the empty house and a note. Now she can have you. Now he is begging me to come back. My name is Teresa, but everyone who loves me calls me Tess. We are Black Americans from Chicago, and for 5 good years I believed I had built something steady and true. The night everything cracked open began with a phone call about a car accident and ended with a confession in the rain. Before that night, there was the beginning. I met Calvin a little over 5 years ago at a 4th of July barbecue in Hyde Park. I was 49, he was 51. I had made peace with being content. A stable career, close friends, worn-in routines that fit like old sweaters. He stood by the grill with a spatula in one hand, a beer in the other, arguing amiably about how many times to flip a burger. His laugh had an easy warmth that crinkled the corners of his kind eyes. He noticed me standing alone and came over carrying 2 plates piled high. "You look like you could use a burger that has endured 7 flips," he said with a grin. He told a long, terrible joke about his potato salad, and it was not the joke that hooked me. It was the attentive way he listened when I spoke, as if a crowded yard had gone quiet just to hear me. We talked long after the fireworks faded. First marriages that failed. Old movies. A mutual intolerance for cilantro. It felt less like meeting and more like resuming. He asked for my number. I left with a dangerous flutter of hope I had not allowed in a long time. We moved quickly without feeling rushed. Our chemistry extended beyond attraction. We finished each other's sentences, shared the same dry humor, and combined my antique books with his modern furniture without a single argument, as if we were building something we had always meant to build. 6 months after we met, we were sharing a home in Oak Park on a quiet street lined with maples. Early on, he told me about Lauren. We were candid with one another, committed to putting everything on the table. He said they were college sweethearts, the kind of 7-year sweep everyone assumed would end in marriage. What happened? I asked one evening as we curled together on the sofa. He stared at a fixed point on the wall and said, "We were young. I wanted to settle down. She wanted to chase her career, see more of the world. We grew up and apart. It was over 20 years ago. After that, he did not bring her up, which I took as healthy. No shoe boxes filled with old photos. No nostalgic stories that positioned me against a ghost. When mutual friends mentioned her, he was neutral. It felt safely finished. Then life delivered a twist that would have seemed silly in a melodrama. My father, Leon, a widower for nearly a decade, called to say he was remarrying. He was giddy. His bride-to-be was Gloria, a kind widow he had met on a senior's cruise. Gloria had a daughter, a successful lawyer, recently divorced. Her daughter's name was Lauren. Yes, that Lauren. Calvin and I stared at each other after the call, stunned. Later, at our kitchen table, we had the kind of serious talk that stretches into the night. He held my hands. "Tess, listen to me," he said, steady. "It is ancient history. You are the woman I love. This does not change us. It is just an awkward coincidence. We are adults. We can handle it." And I believed him. We handled it. We attended my father and Gloria's vineyard wedding in Sonoma County. Calvin shook Lauren's hand, asked about her firm, kept a respectful distance. She was friendly to me, complimentary about my dress, polite and warm enough. We all acted the way sensible people vow to act when families tangle in complicated ways. Gracious, measured, determined to make it work. 2 years into our relationship, Calvin wrote "Marry Me," Tess in a smooth stretch of sand on Cannon Beach, Oregon. We married later that fall in our own backyard in Oak Park, a simple ceremony with close friends and family. My father and Gloria beamed. Lauren smiled and applauded along with everyone else. Afterward, our days settled into a rhythm. A good marriage built on what I thought was trust and mutual respect. I told myself I was lucky, but I was not lucky. I was just blind. The first hairline crack appeared at Leon and Gloria's 5th anniversary dinner, a small gathering at a quiet Italian restaurant in River North. The night was pleasant at first. We toasted to their happiness and laughed about my father's doomed hellebore plantings. Then I noticed how Calvin's eyes would find Lauren. Not a stare, nothing crude, just a habitual flick of attention, a quiet tether that hummed under the conversation. When she told a story, his laughter was a shade too enthusiastic. Gloria prompted, "Lauren, Tell them about your big win in court last month. She brushed it off, flushed with pleasure. That is amazing, Calvin said too loudly. I always knew you would do incredible things, Lore. The old nickname hit me like a small slap. It was intimate and rooted in a history I did not share. That night in bed, I pretended to sleep and watched him pick up his tablet. He hesitated, then opened Facebook and typed Lauren's name. Blue light washed his face. What crossed it was not casual curiosity. It was longing and something deeper. The sorrow of a path not taken. He scrolled her photos for a long time. He sensed me watching and snapped the tablet closed. Just could not sleep, he muttered. Checking headlines. He turned away. I lay awake with a picture of his illuminated face burned into my mind. Over the next months, a slow erosion began. Not a cliff face crashing into the sea. Nothing so dramatic, but steady sand giving way tide after tide. Calvin worked late. At first there were deadlines and new clients. I warmed dinner and waited with patience. Then working late became the norm. When he was home, he was elsewhere, a ghost at our table. What are you thinking about? I would ask. He would blink himself back and smile with only his mouth. Work stuff, the usual. His phone became the third party in our marriage. He used to leave it wherever he last set it down. Now it was always with him, face down on the table, in his pocket, held too long in his hand. If I entered the room, he locked the screen too fast. One night while he showered, I unlocked it with our anniversary date, heart pounding. Nothing. No calls. No messages. Nothing but the cleanliness of a scrubbed slate, which somehow felt more damning than a single incriminating line. I planned date nights, cooked his favorite lasagna, opened a good bottle. For an hour, sometimes two, I would glimpse the old Calvin. He laughed and his eyes warmed. He reached for my hand. Then, like a sunbeam slipping behind clouds, he went distant again. There is no loneliness more profound than lying beside the person you love and feeling an invisible wall you cannot cross. I knew for sure on a Tuesday. It was the anniversary of our first date, a small tradition that mattered to me. I planned chicken piccata with roasted asparagus, chilled a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. At 4:30 he called. I am sorry, he said, hurried. The team just landed a big Sterling construction account, and my boss, Mr. Richmond, wants us to stay late to draft a proposal. There is no getting out of it. We can celebrate this weekend, I said. You are the best, he replied, relieved. Do not wait up. At 7, my best friend, Felicia, called. Not interrupting anniversary dinner, am I? Not at all, I said lightly, though my chest felt heavy. He had to work late. There was a pause. Work late? She repeated. I took my mother to an appointment this afternoon, out in the suburbs. On the way back, I took the side road near Maplewood Lake. I saw Calvin's car outside the Daily Grind. He looked deep in conversation with someone, blonde hair. The Daily Grind in Oak Park was 30 minutes from his downtown office and 10 minutes from where Lauren lived. Are you sure? I asked, already knowing. Positive, she said quietly. Tess, are you okay? After we hung up, I called his office. A receptionist answered, bright and polite. Mr. Richmond's firm, how may I direct your call? May I speak with Calvin? I asked. I am sorry, she said. Mr. Calvin left at 4 o'clock. Would you like to leave a message? He had called me at 4:30 to place a lie with care into my hands. My stomach went cold and hard. I had my confrontation planned by the time my phone rang again. It was Gloria, and her voice was strangled with panic. Tess, oh God, Lauren has been in an accident. A truck ran a red light. They took her to Northwestern Memorial Hospital. I stood there empty of everything but purpose. I grabbed my keys. I called Calvin. He picked up on the first ring. Tess, is everything okay? He asked, too calm, as if he had not just spent the early evening inventing a meeting that did not exist. It is Lauren, I said, flat and cold. There has been a bad accident. They took her to Northwestern Memorial. Silence. Then a ragged sound, a gasp split by a sob. No, he whispered, his voice breaking. Oh God, no. I have to go. I have to be there. Tess, can you come get me? I am still at the Daily Grind. Please. I will explain later. Please. I should have said no. Call a taxi. Call Gloria. Sit with your choice. But even then, 5 years of marriage moved the gears inside me. I said, I am on my way. The drive took 10 minutes and a lifetime. It was raining harder. He was pacing under the streetlight, soaked, pale, frantic. He slid into the passenger's seat and shut the door. Go, he said tightly. We drove in silence, windshield wipers keeping time like a metronome for a doomed moment. Under the emergency room awning, I put the car in park. Tell me what is going on, I said. Not now, Tess. This is not the time. Now, I said, my voice ironed flat. Why did you lie? Why were you with her tonight? Why are you unraveling like this? This is more than concern for a stepsister, is it not? He faced me finally, eyes wrecked, tears hovering. The words tumbled out raw. Please, Tess. I need to be there. I still love her. The world stopped. He had not said, I care about her. He had not said, I love you both. He had said still, a straight line from then to now. Something inside me quieted. I put the car in drive. Go to her, I said. She needs you. He fumbled with the door handle and ran. He did not look back. I watched him cross the washed concrete toward the sliding doors and disappear. I sat there a long time, watching rain blur the lights across the windshield. I felt hollow, weightless with certainty. My marriage was over. I drove home on autopilot. The pizza I had ordered earlier sat congealing on the table. I moved through rooms that had seemed safe and warm that morning, and now felt like a museum of a life that belonged to someone else. The landscape painting above the fireplace. His armchair. The handmade quilt we bought at a craft fair on a weekend trip. Artifacts of good intentions that no longer mattered. I went to our bedroom, pulled down my largest suitcase, and began to pack. Not everything. Only what was mine. I folded shirts and sweaters and jeans with the calm of a person doing a practical task. In the bathroom, I slid my toiletries into a canvas bag. Before I zipped the suitcase, I took a sheet of paper from the nightstand and wrote, "Now she can have you," in neat block letters. I left it on his pillow and walked through the house one last time. I closed the front door quietly. I drove to Howard's. He is an old friend, a soft-spoken architect with a generous heart. I called from the car. "I know it is late, but can I come over? I need a place to stay." His answer was simple. "Of course, Tess. The guest room is ready. The door is unlocked. Drive safe." For 3 days, I lived in a bubble of silence in his small guest room. The window looking out on a peaceful yard where squirrels launched themselves between branches like little acrobats. Howard brewed coffee and left a mug for me without a word. He made an extra sandwich and slid it into the refrigerator. He did not press, and I was grateful for the kindest gift of all, space. On the 4th morning, the numbness lifted enough to allow in reality. I powered on my phone. It buzzed and pinged for a full minute. Dozens of missed calls from Calvin, almost 100 messages, calls from my father and Gloria. The early texts were demanding. "Where are you? Your stuff is gone. Pick up the phone. What does this note mean?" Then worry. "Please tell me you are safe." Then pleading. I did not mean it. I was in shock. "Please come home." I read them in order and felt nothing. The truth had already scorched away the soft parts where those words might have landed. One new voicemail waited. I almost deleted it unheard, then pressed play. His voice was ragged. "Tess, please." What I said in the car, I was out of my mind. I was scared for her. I was thinking of her as a friend, as family. "I do not love her like that. I love you. You are my life. We can fix this. We can go to counseling." I deleted the message and blocked his number. Later, Felicia knocked on Howard's door, standing on the stoop with a container of chicken soup and a face that made my chest ache. "Are you okay?" she asked. "No," I said, finally admitting it out loud. "But I think I will be." We sat at Howard's small kitchen table while steam curled from our bowls. I told her everything, from the anniversary dinner to the parking lot, to the confession under the hospital awning. Her expression darkened with each detail. "There is something I have to tell you," she said, twisting a napkin. I saw him with her a few weeks before the coffee shop at Humboldt Park Lagoon. They were on a bench. It was intense. I told myself it was nothing. I did not want to hurt you over what might be nothing. And there is more. My sister works in real estate in the same building as Lauren's firm. Her colleague is friends with Lauren. She says Calvin and Lauren reconnected after your father's anniversary dinner. He messaged her. It became daily. He confided in her. About work. About you. He told her he felt disconnected in your marriage. Disconnected. The word made something sharp rise in me. I had been the one setting the table and opening bottles and inventing excuses while he built an intimate parallel world with my stepsister a few miles away. It was not a moment of panic. It was an emotional affair. Months long. The truth did not soothe. It cauterized. It burned away any lingering thread of doubt about what I needed to do. The next morning, I called a highly recommended divorce attorney named Ms. Avery and made an appointment. A week later, I agreed to meet Calvin once. Not to reconcile, but to say in person that I had filed and that any further communication would go through counsel. We chose a bland chain coffee shop in a strip mall in Oak Brook, a place with no memories to tug at me. He was already there when I arrived, thinner, older in the span of days. He looked up, misery and hope written across his face. "Tess, thank you for meeting me," he said. "I am not here to talk about us," I replied, calm and even. I sat across from him and set my purse on the chair beside me like a low wall. "I have retained counsel. The papers will be served by the end of the week." He flinched as if I had slapped him. "Tess, please do not do this. We can fix it. We can move, we can see a counselor. I will quit my job. Whatever it takes." "Work through what?" I asked. "Should we work through the months you carried on an emotional affair with my stepsister? Work through the lies you placed carefully in my hands? Or start with the part where you told me you still love her?" He shook his head hard. "It was not an affair, not a real one. Nothing physical happened. We just talked." I let out a short laugh with no joy in it. "You hid your meetings and scrubbed your phone. You shared the private rooms of our marriage with another woman. The lack of physical intimacy does not absolve betrayal. In some ways, it makes it worse." I was confused, he said, leaning forward. Seeing her as family again stirred up nostalgia. "It was a terrible lapse. But it is you I love, Tess. Do not throw away 5 years." I looked at him and felt the quiet certainty of closure. "This is about trust," I said. "It is the foundation. You dismantled it piece by piece. When crisis came, when past collided with present, your first thought was of her. You ran into that hospital toward her and away from this marriage. That is something I cannot forget or forgive." I stood. "Our prenuptial agreement is clear," I said. "My attorney will contact yours to handle the house. Goodbye, Calvin." I left him there among the small clatter of cups and the ruins of what he had so casually set on fire. The months that followed were exhausting. Filings, mediation, signatures. The prenuptial agreement I had insisted upon years earlier turned out to be a gift I gave my future self. Calvin tried to stall, used mediation as a stage for speeches about regret and undying love. Ms. Avery, sharp and unflappable, kept the process moving like a current. I found a small 2-bedroom apartment in Bronzeville with a balcony just big enough for a chair and 3 potted plants. The silence there was heavy at first. I assembled a bookcase from a flat box in an evening that ended with me sitting on the floor, aching and proud in equal measure. I took out my paints for the first time in years and covered the new walls with color. I learned the shape of quiet that belonged to me alone, not the quiet that used to stretch between 2 people avoiding what they already knew. Family updates filtered through whether I wanted them or not. Lauren recovered fully. When she was home from the hospital, Calvin made a grand gesture, flowers and speeches about destiny, as if time had looped backward and erased the damage. She turned him down. She told anyone who listened that she had been caught in a nostalgic fantasy and that the accident woke her up. She did not want a relationship built on the ashes of my marriage. He had thrown everything after a ghost, and the ghost did not want him. My father and I had a thorny conversation. He was ashamed and brokenhearted. He apologized for the way his happiness had tangled our lives in ways he never foresaw. I told him I did not blame him. He could not have known. We are slowly finding our way back to easy conversation, but there are days when looking at him reminds me of the chain of choices that brought me here, and I have to step away. 6 months after the night of the confession in the rain, the divorce was final. I did not celebrate. I made chamomile tea and sat on my balcony and watched the sky change color above the city. The feeling that settled over me was not triumph. It was peace. The best part of my revenge, if the word even applies, was quiet. It was the life I built afterward. I went to the local shelter on a bright Saturday and met a terrier mix with 1 floppy ear and the gentlest eyes I had ever seen. He trembled in the back of his kennel until I sat down and spoke to him softly. He crept forward and licked my hand. I named him Miles and took him home. He curls at my feet while I write and launches himself into the kind of joy only dogs know when I walk through the door. He asks nothing of me but presence and offers everything he has in return. I ran into an old neighbor at the grocery store in South Loop. She said Calvin sold the house. The rooms were too loud with memory. He rents a tidy apartment downtown and keeps to himself. He looks lost, she said. I felt a small pang of pity that dissolved as quickly as it came. We make our choices. We live with what they mean. He chose a romanticized past over our real future. I chose myself. Sometimes grief still arrives without warning. The scent of rain on hot pavement brings back the emergency room awning. The taste of chicken piccata carries an echo of a table set for two that became a waiting room for a truth I did not want. When that happens, I sit in the quiet and let it move through me. It leaves sooner now. It leaves room for peace. People ask how I could walk away so quickly. It was not quick. My feet moved fast, yes, but my heart had been walking toward the door for months while I was still cooking lasagna and trying not to see what was there. The sentence he said in the car, those 4 words, were not the first crack, they were the final break. Sometimes endings are not loud. They are a series of small shifts that bring you to the cliff's edge. When you finally look down, you realize you have been there a long time. I keep that piece of paper tucked in a drawer. Now she can have you, not as a souvenir of bitterness, but as a reminder of a line I drew and stepped across. It is proof that in the face of a truth that could have swallowed me, I chose to act. I chose to protect the self I had nearly lost in the careful, quiet way I learned to live beside someone who had already left. On certain evenings, I sit on my balcony while Miles leans against my leg and the city hums. I think about that drive through the rain, the glow of the emergency room doors, the steady sweep of the wipers. I think about Calvin's face when he realized what he had said, about the weightlessness that followed as the future I thought I had evaporated. Then I step back into the present, into the life that is mine, into the rooms I furnished for one, and sometimes for friends who come to sit and drink coffee and laugh with me in a way that fills the space from wall to wall. I used to believe luck brought people together and kept them there. Now I know it is the daily work of truth and attention, and the willingness to face the thing you would rather avoid. It is the courage to leave when leaving is the only honest thing left to do, even if your hands shake while you fold the sweaters and slide the zipper closed. Peace is not a prize at the end. It is something you lay slowly, stone by stone, until one day you look around and realize you are standing inside it. That is the life I live now. Not perfect, not free of ghosts, but mine. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.